Welcome to this podcast. I'm your host, Zach Schwartz, and joining me today is a longtime friend, I'd say. You know, we've been in and out, connections, stuff like that through the years, but we've always had a type of rapport, and today we're going to get into the politics side of things, which you guys know is not my favorite domain, but trying to learn more, trying to be a good naturalized citizen here in the United States of America. So joining me today is the great and powerful Olivia Salter. Olivia, how are you doing today?
I'm good. I'm on break. I have a 9-hour Zoom situation going on today. I started at 9 and I'm going till 6, so I'm on break for that. So I'm tired, but I'm here.
Wow, and you chose to spend your break talking to me about political things. Just incredible.
Yeah, I mean, what can I say? I think Zach he sold our relationship short. We went to prom together. He was my freaking prom date.
Well, yeah, you it's a great story to tell because if you recall, I did not want to go, and I desperately knew. I think we always had just a very straightforward friendship, and you texted me and you were like, "Zach, you're coming with me. I need someone to go with," and I was like, "No." And I think it got to the point where you offered to ask me, which you did. I think you also offered to pay, and that's when I was like, no, I'm not going to do that bad. I'm not that bad. Like, goodness gracious. But you're right. No, we were very close in high school, and I moved away, and we've always kept in touch a good amount. But yeah, you set up on stories like, hey, bring me on. I was like, actually, honestly, I can't believe you haven't been on the previous 76 or whatever episodes. I know.
So. I was like, geez, come on. Yeah, it's been so long. But yeah, no, I did coerce you. I really did coerce you to go to prom. I remember getting in an argument, and I was like, you're going to regret not going to prom. And you were like, no, I won't. And I was like, yeah, you will. And I mean, we'll never know because you went, but.
Right. And honestly, it was a lot of fun. We had a lot of fun. We did it right. That's for sure. So,
yeah, it was fun.
Yeah. So tell the people a little bit about who you are, what you do. Other than that, we went to prom together and graduated together in the great North Ridgeville class of 2017. What have you been doing for the last 4 years at the great Kent State University?
Yeah. So, I mean, I like to think I'm a memorable alumni from NRHS. But aside from that, I do political science at Kent. I had kind of a long sought journey into it. I did English for a little bit. But I landed here. I concentrate in international relations, and I have a minor in Italian. So I speak Italian, which is pretty neat. And right now I'm interning for a representative of Ohio. I don't know if I'm allowed to say who I'm interning for, so I won't.
Yeah, don't ask me the rules. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. My boss never told me, so I'm just going to be on the safe side. But yes, I'm an intern, and after that, I hope that they offer me a job. So then I'll work in policy for a little bit, and hopefully I'll go to law school.
Wow, that's incredible. So you're planning to do a couple years through this with this mystery representative, and then possibly go back for law and stuff like that later on.
Yeah. So right now, I mean, I'm only week 3, but they've kind of entrusted me to do some policy analytics stuff, which is really neat. So far, I've looked at agricultural policy, I've looked at education policy. So by the end of my internship, I should be pretty well versed, and hopefully I'll be like a fellow, or they'll kind of take me on as a research assistant. And then through COVID, I'm not ready to go to law school. That's going to look so weird right now. So work for a little bit, make some money, pay off my loans, and then, be a slave to the system for 3 years.
There you go. Get out of the system and then get right back into it, right?
Literally.
In high school, it's always break out of the system, and you realize, well, you can only make it if you get into the system, at least for a little bit. So,
yeah.
I get that, but it's awesome with that internship, getting that type of first hand experience already, just through 3 weeks. Sounds fantastic. It makes you a political expert for this podcast. I hope you do.
Yeah, it's pretty solid. Yeah, so I mean, it's also a weird time to have an internship right now. I mean, usually I go on the Hill, and I'd be in DC right now with the program that I'm in. But obviously I'm in North Ridgeville, Ohio. And my laptop serves as my office. But it would be really interesting to be there right now just with the administration shift. And I work for a Democrat, and they have the House and they have the Senate and they have the presidency. So legislation's moving really fast. So it's a really strange environment.
Yeah, I agree, and it's a big transition period. Obviously, as a lot of people had hoped for ever since 2016, I'd say, and it bit me in the ass the other day, and not in any sense of actual serious consequences. But I was playing the great game of Cards Against Humanity, as you know.
Oh, yes.
I've invested heavily in my Cards Against Humanity collection of cards, trying to make sure the game never gets boring. It never has. I haven't seen certain cards for years in that game. I realized
It's a good one.
Yes, of course. And so I played they had an updated box there a couple years ago, but after Trump. We should do like new time, like AT, like after Trump, 2021.
Oh my god, you're absolutely correct.
We're year one AT.
Yeah.
But the card was about that being like something like our stupid president, whatever. I don't want to use the exact language, whatever. Like the stupid president who's in charge. And I played it. I was like, this is a winner. This is easy. The Don wins every time. And then the person went, wait, but Biden's in charge. I was like, oh my god. I was like, you're right. This isn't, and obviously I lost, and I was just like, wow. So I hadn't even processed, that we don't have Trump anymore and stuff like that. So I guess like going off of that, you said you're more into the Democratic side of things, and like, so what are you looking for as someone who's been progressive for a long time? You definitely pushed me to get more politically active, stuff like that back in the day. What do you now, like you said, the Democrats have the presidency, they have the House, they have the Senate. What are you hoping this sets up for in the next, 4-8 years or so for the Democrats?
Yeah, so I mean, I've always been really, really liberal from high school to now. I mean, I probably actually got less liberal over the years, just as you learn more and you hear the other sides of things. But either way, I've very strongly aligned with the Democratic Party. And I think that we're in a really interesting spot right now because there's a lot of anger towards the Democratic Party, which I think is fair because for a lot of time things were really stagnant. I mean, while Obama was in administration, while we were in high school, people were seeing a lot of defunding of a lot of public programs, while the administration was kind of boasting that they were funding. So there was like this huge discrepancy between what was actually happening to the people and what was happening in the administration. And that's how Trump came to be, because he was like, I'm going to drain the swamp or whatever. And that was obviously very dangerous. So for these next 4 years, I think that the overarching theme needs to be like actually help people. And Ezra Klein, if you know who Ezra Klein is, he's a columnist who does a podcast. That's his thing, is like, if all of these legislators can work together to create genuine policy that's going to act fast, and it's going to actually do what they say it can do, then that's a good thing. And that's what we should be seeing in the wake of COVID, in the wake of these race relations, like moving quick and moving with purpose.
Right. And I think you hit on COVID right now. I know I see news articles each day about the update with new relief bills and stuff like that. They're trying to work on in the Senate, stuff like right now. I believe it worked through the Senate yesterday. We're recording this. What day is today? February 4th. So they'll be releasing a little bit later in the week. So you're right, like they're doing those type of things, and that's what I think, they really do need to focus on, is those types of human rights issues, especially with the tumultuous year and towards the end of Trump's presidency and Trump's rhetoric as well over the past 4 years. Are you worried at all? You mentioned Obama. Are you worried at all the type of Obama situation? Because if I'm correct, I've heard this from people who I wasn't really paying attention. If you remember, the Obama, not even Obama McCain, but if you remember, we were in middle school for Obama, the Obama versus, God, I'm forgetting his name, Romney. Which was a lot of fun for us as immature children. But
I remember, what's so funny? I'm going to interject you. A lunch teacher in middle school one time asked me who my family was voting for. I don't even remember who it was, but I remember this like the other day. And I was like, why the hell would she ask an 11-year-old that? Like, every time someone asked me, I was like, I don't know.
But like, actually, we reviewed it. We reviewed the plan, over at dinner each night who we're voting for. Like, yeah, you're right. It doesn't make any sense. Like,
anyways.
That's everything this is about our city. There's so many different stories where it's like, why did this actually happen?
I know, it's so weird.
But like Obama, if I'm correct, in 2008 was set up with the same situation now. And even, I know the Senate's technically tied, but obviously with Vice President Harris coming in, even a bigger advantage in the Senate and the House and stuff like that. And then in the midterm elections of 2010, all of a sudden they lost. They lost either the Senate or the House. I can't remember which one. I want to say it's the Senate, but I guess my point is that they lost the triple advantage. Are you fearful of anything like that? With Biden will come in and stabilize things, and I think people will be thankful for that after the last 4 years. But then, give it another 2 years, if then there's going to be a reaction against this, like in a more typical Republican versus Democrat type of situation.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think that's a fair concern. I think a lot of people have echoed that. And there is a lot of comparison of right now, this 2021 coming out of 2020, just like Obama in 2008 when they came into the housing crisis, and they didn't have a lot of time to repair things. We were in this terrible recession. And I think that's a valuable comparison, but I don't think it's as fair because the housing crisis was really bad. It was it's a historic recession, but it's not nearly as explosive as COVID was. And I think that there was a long time coming for the housing crisis. There was the economic bubble. But COVID really didn't have that. It came in and it was a literal virus. It was a literal disease. And I think that there's a bigger opportunity for, like I said, people to just help people and get relief now than there was for the housing crisis, because that was years and years of closed door deals in the stock market and just all these structural things. Whereas COVID is it's in your face. Like, you have an opportunity to fix it. And once you do that, then you can go back and address all these structural problems because now things have radically changed. So in response to your question about the House and if we lose it, I think that if they can successfully alleviate a lot of the struggles that Americans have had for these past 10 months, then I think they have a really, really great chance of keeping the Senate and keeping the House and keeping the presidency, obviously. More so a better chance than they did in 2008.
Right. And that makes a lot of sense. I think, like you're pointing out, COVID has multiple facets of it, right? When the housing crisis came, it was, yes, about the real estate market, it was about the banks, but that was mostly an economic issue. Right. And here now you have to balance health versus the economy, which I personally think they've been struggling with a lot, just based on different perceptions from different places, obviously. And California especially has been struggling a lot. And just something sometimes, I think all of us, even if you're, we all should be wearing our masks. We should all be doing different things, social distancing, stuff like that. But there's a lot of inaccuracies and things that you could just point out where you're like, well, if you do this doesn't make sense then. And I think that's been with a lot of different policies that they've had, and especially if the big thing for me at a big governmental level that's been happening a lot is, okay, if you're going to shut down all the things, then all the businesses and stuff like that, like they had. And I definitely supported in March, April, May, whatever, when we didn't know what COVID was. It could have been the plague. It could have been something else. No, but seriously, I mean, there were legit fears that it was going to kill millions and millions of people. And I'm not trying to make it. Yes, yeah, across the world. I'm saying just in America. Sure. And frankly, the death toll is staggering. I'm not underestimating any of that or the loss of life impact or anything like that. But we now understand a lot better who's at risk, what certain physiological factors are at risk, age, stuff like that. And so to my point, if you're going to close everything down, like some states still are, then you have to give them relief now with stimulus. And it took so long to get that second bill to pass through. And I think that's where I kind of see issues. It's like, well, you can't take the choice to work or something like that away from people and then not compensate them for it. And that disconnect happened a lot for the majority of the past year, I believe. I could be wrong, but yeah.
No, I completely agree. There was a really, really big disconnect. I mean, with the Trump era, there was just so much emphasis on we need to protect our workers. And yeah, I mean, that's true. At a very micro level, that's what you're seeing. You're seeing these individual people that are out of work and they're losing their small businesses. For example, my dad had that arcade. I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah, of course. That place is booming.
Yeah, so it closed during COVID.
Oh, what? Now I'm really mad. That's it. Mm-hmm. I'm officially against Donald Trump's policies now.
Well, yeah, so I mean, everything closed because people were really afraid. But there was no relief that came. I mean, there were some packages that were delivered to small businesses, but it wasn't nearly enough. And you had to apply, and the process was really long. It was bureaucratic, as most are. But yeah, there was this really fundamental disconnect between like what was good for our health and what was good for our jobs, and no one could agree. I mean, it was a stalemate between the Republicans and the Democrats, because the Democrats were like, let's steal all this money and let's keep these people home, but the Republicans were like, we don't want to give all these people money, like they need to go back to work. And so hopefully soon, when they pass this release package, hopefully that kind of ceases and we're able to get some like actual money into people's hands so they can pay their rent and they can feed their children and they don't have to worry about like going to work and potentially catching a virus, to do so. So, and yeah, more than just $600. Like it was just so shitty, in my opinion. Like, what is $600 going to do for someone whose rent is like $1,300?
Yeah, my college apartment rent is more than that.
Yeah, right. I know.
Like,
it's gonna stimulate the economy. You'll be able to go buy like a fucking flat iron or something, but like it's nothing substantive.
Yeah, I agree with you 100%. And then I think also this sounds very libertarian-esque, but just you take away the choice from people.
Yeah,
if there's a 35-year-old person, whatever, who has no risk factors, is healthy, stuff like that, and wants to go in and does extra hours and stuff like that, then I mean, I think at some point they should have the choice. Now, that's the choice to be responsible. And of course, a lot of people are choosing to be irresponsible now. Many that are our age that are going out and living with their parents and whatever, and still just doing stuff like that. And I mean, I guess I live in Florida, which is a completely different country than the rest of the United States of America here. With I don't know how it is up there, but our bars and clubs are still fully open. Most of them are.
That is like it. That is crazy. Like, I mean, we have a lot of stuff that's open. But it's like not really open. Like, you can go, but you have to like stay at your table. You have to wear a mask. Like, you can't get up and dance. Like, it's not fun, to say the least. And I think that's kind of the point. It's not supposed to be fun. You're not supposed to be able to go out and do those things. But obviously there's been backlash for that, because like, what is life if you can't go do those things? So there's all these really, really human sacrifices that were a human sacrifice, not like an altar sacrifice, but a sacrifice made by human nature.
Going back to the Aztecs there in Mexico,
yeah,
that's what we're doing.
On the hill. No, yeah. So I mean, that's also been really problematic, because people that our age, that they advertise that, hey, you guys aren't really at risk. Like, of course we're gonna want to go out. Like, of course. Like, you can't say that and then be like, just kidding, you can't go out. Like, so. I think also, like, do we give the people a choice? Do we let them try to be responsible? And that was definitely something that they grappled with on the Hill. And I think that the answer, there's no answer, but I think people, if they have to make the choice between going out and having fun and staying at home for 3 months, they're definitely going to go out. So I think that's at least valuable.
Right, agreed. And I also think too, like, I mean, there's also ways though where I look at it with our fellow age constituents, where I'm just like, just have like 6 people over your house that have been okay, that you've hung out with before, or something like that. We call it at UCF our quarantine, people you hang out with.
Funny.
Yeah, it was really good. I believe our president coined it in one of our meetings, and it's a good thought though, because if you hang out with somebody, whether it's your roommate or somebody you're hanging out with once every couple of days, whatever like that, then you're staying within each person's kind of bubble type thing to hang out with, and like that type of, so because at the end of the day too, something that wasn't being emphasized enough, like you've kind of hinted at, is the mental health aspect of this, because I think there's a crazy stat, I forgot what the number was, but alcohol sales have jumped up like crazy since the pandemic started. Depression, suicide, mental health issues, all of that has gone up since the lockdowns and pandemic started. So it's like, we are social creatures. There needs to be something that happened with human interaction. And I think if, you said there's no answer, and you're right, because it has to be a balance. I mean, I live in Florida. I don't know if this is the move, guys, having everything fully open. I don't think that is the move. But then if you're in some other state, I'm going to use California, because I listen to the great Joe Rogan podcast. And hey, he was there living, at least. He's a first-person narrative, more than I say.
I can't believe you listen to Joe Rogan.
Well, he's pretty... You're going to hate on Joe Rogan right now?
Yes, I'm going to hate on Joe Rogan.
Hey, he lets the people talk. He lets the experts talk.
Oh my god. All right. Anyway, continue with your point.
No, We can have a 45-minute discussion about Joe Rogan another time. But I know I'm going to catch some flack now after the show from you about this. It's that just LA has been a disaster with this type of thing because they have the capability to do outdoor dining. They have the capability to do these other things and try to help keep these businesses afloat, even at 50% capacity, and they refuse to do it. And I believe now, I don't know what it's at now, you would know this better than I do, I think there was at least a petition filed to get Gavin Newsom, the governor, removed. I don't know what number it's at now, because he, of course, and here's the other thing with the hypocrisy of it all, because there's been a couple of reps who have done this, so it's all shut down, right? And Newsom got busted dining indoors without a mask on, and claimed that it was outdoors and that he wore a mask the entire time, and it was a small number of people. And another photo leaked of him like with 14 or so people. Don't quote me on it, people. Don't fact check me. I haven't hired a stat guy yet. We're working on it. But and then he said it was outdoors, but then someone's like, "There's a chandelier right above your head, dude."
Right. Yeah,
so,
no.
That type of hypocrisy, I think, we were looking at it, where you're like, okay, well, like, so you're gonna restrict us from doing all this, but like you're gonna go out and do it yourself. Then if it's really so unsafe, why are you out there doing it? Type thing as well for certain states. So I think it's a balanced approach. And actually, I see what Ohio does a lot of times back home, and I'm like, actually, that it's a fair mix of keeping things together and just trying to keep things reasonably afloat.
Yeah, no, I think you're absolutely right. And like, there's been a lot of that happening in all levels of government. Like, the Ohio, some Ohio committee met yesterday, and my best friend, who is more politically active than me, surprisingly, he gets fired up easy. And he wrote in a letter because there were like 7 or 8 people in this meeting, and they posted a picture. None of them were wearing masks, and none of them were social distancing. And he was like, how are you going to expect all these people that are your constituents to follow your rules if you're not enforcing them?
Yep.
That was like when Nancy Pelosi went and got her nails done.
Yes, exactly. Yep.
It was like, how are you going to try to lead America and be like, okay, everyone, you need to stay safe and listen to the CDC and just blatantly ignore it?
The best part about that Pelosi story is that she said she was set up. It's like, you're the one that walked into the haircut place without a mask on.
Like, lady, like, you're already hated. Like, you already have like a noose ready for you. Like, come on.
Careful, that's a QAnon conspiracy right there. Careful.
Oh my god,
that's what you sound like.
That's a whole nother 45 minutes.
Is.
I could go on for hours about QAnon. It's like so fascinating to me. But yeah, like the policy is just like, it's really paradoxical, and there's no answer. And I think in 50 years we're gonna look back at this and be like, what the fuck were we doing? Yeah. Like, it's gonna come crystal clear sooner or later, and it's going to be like, we've made all these fundamental mistakes. And then 100 years from then, people are going to look at us like we look at the people who handled the Black Plague. And we're going to be like, wow, what were they doing?
Yeah.
It's so bizarre. Like, we're in such a strange time.
Well, that's how we'll look at, I think, big tech, things like social media and stuff like that right now.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I think with the government, too, because I'm at the point right now, and I'm okay saying this, I'm a registered independent down here in Florida, because I just like... And, I think where I voted in the last election. I think you can guess, and people who listen to this podcast can guess based on what I said. And our farewell, we'll do a farewell to the Don as he exits. Just to give him the proper respect. I can't even finish that statement without laughing. But just because, like, where I'm at right now in my understanding of it is that you see all this, and it's in Washington, and you might have a different perspective, and if you do, I'd love to hear it. But just that there's a lot of back scratching, and I think to your point that you said earlier is like, if the Democrats can really prove that they are going to be the future party of the people, then that's something that's going to serve them really well. But right now, to me, it just doesn't seem like either party right now is just wants to do that type of thing right now. And I think COVID's exposed that a bit, because it's been, we mentioned people getting, leaders getting caught left and right. It's been both sides of the aisle. It's been moderate. Like, it's just like, because they're just in Washington and stuff like that, just doing whatever. And that might be me just looking at it outside without the inner understanding of the workings, because I understand you have to do deals to get things done. I mean, in my work life, I have to be like, hey, let's just work on this together. Let's meet in the middle. Let's do, like, so I get that part of it, but it's just so, I mean, a COVID relief bill was how long was the last one? Like, it was 100 something or something, hundreds of pages that no human would ever read. And you're like, why?
It was thousands of pages.
Why? Like, why? Like, just like, you know what I'm saying? Like, and that's right. Because there's stuff in there that we will never see the light of day of, and doesn't benefit American citizens a lot of times, I feel like.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And I think, this is a very controversial opinion that I have, and none of my friends agree with me. I have many controversial opinions, as you know. If you know me for longer than 10 minutes.
And you don't hide them either. You just go for it. Like, you
Yeah,
test the friendship waters very
I do.
quick. Yeah.
I do. I'm stirring the shit pot. But I am as terrible and stressful and anxiety inducing as the past 4 years were. I think that Donald Trump succeeded in what he wanted to do. And not to the degree that he wants to. Donald Trump was all like, I'm going to drain the swamp and expose these politicians. And he wanted to do it in this really weird way that was like criminalizing and bad and inspired to QAnon people. But he did expose a really stagnant system. He really tested the limitations of democracy in the American government. And I think that we were due for a test like that. And I think that in order for a democracy in a country to grow, you need to do that. You can't just sit here and play the game for how many years and then just hope that things change. Like, that's not going to happen. Like, in order for slavery to be abolished, you needed a civil war. Like,
Yeah.
So I think that he really, really did open the gates for Americans to see into these things and see these really slow processes, I guess. So I think you're absolutely right in thinking that both sides of the spectrum are just kind of sitting around picking their asses like, oh God, we got to do something. I think that's why a lot of people get exhausted with politics that work in them, because it is so slow. And the people that are electric, like AOC, like, she's not going to last. She'll get so tired.
Yeah.
Like,
No, she will.
Yeah, I mean, you can only stay for so long with that kind of energy. So I mean, I'm hopeful that with Biden in and with Kamala, they'll kind of start to speed things up. But yeah, the sense of urgency is just like not there.
Right. And I think a lot of people too are going to be looking at what happened with Trump and frankly the anomaly of it all.
Yeah.
And just be like, a non-politician is president, never again. And I don't come from that lens. Like, you're going to laugh your ass off at this, and you might make me do it. But, like, I think I could make a case for Dwayne Johnson as president.
Absolutely not.
I think I could do it. I think I could do it.
No, but I think it would be a terrible case, and I would reject all the premises.
Okay. Well, maybe we'll get into it, because we had to catch up a bit before this podcast. Maybe for the next one we'll do a longer version. I'll be like, okay, the case of The Rock. First of all, you send The Rock in to negotiate. You're never losing a negotiation. Like, put Vin Diesel in there too as VP. What's going to happen anyway? We will have the best trade deals of all trade deals. Anyway, okay,
they would be great fronts. They would be great negotiators. I will hand it to you on that.
Yeah. And my point, though, is that, I'm not necessarily opposed to it, because, the president, in my view, is the leader of leaders. And what I mean by that, you're like, duh, Zach. But what the point I'm saying with that is that the thing that I think for Trump, which as soon as he got in office, you're talking about draining the swamp, all this stuff. As soon as he got in office, he became a politician. So
right, exactly.
So like he definitely just betrayed all of that. Whatever, he just got in. So that's one thing with that. He wasn't even really like the celebrity coming in and actually doing things. But I always said that Trump's biggest thing to me isn't necessarily his policies, because I mean he didn't really have a lot of policies. But what, like, on paper, if you were looking on paper, like, you didn't know who he was, anything like that, right?
Yeah.
His rhetoric, though, was the biggest issue. The way he led the country with hate, with anger, stuff like that. So that's to where my point is that if you just bring The Rock in there, and he's just like, look, I've ran a business before. I do a lot of things. I have fought giant crocodiles and wolves in movies before. I literally can move a submarine with my hands in Fast and Furious 8. Or it's a submarine missile.
Okay.
Like, I know I can hire smart people, and I'm going to be just the face of America and be the stand-up person and have the rhetoric of, Biden's had this rhetoric as well, but of unity, of doing this stuff, and just trying to make what makes sense. And basically just running it like the government like something else. I don't actually, The Rock's obviously never going to run. Like, I'm just saying that from a standpoint... From a standpoint of leadership, and that's where Trump's biggest failure came, because now you have people who are in the House and in the Senate who are rising up now that are young Republicans that were in those young Republican clubs and that rhetoric Trump spoke to, and now they're going to start getting positions from the grassroots and actually work on that stuff. And that's where the biggest issue is, I think, with the whole Trump. And I think that's what's going to end up being his legacy. You know, it's not that he said a ton of stupid shit on Twitter, but that's part of it, obviously, or that he had terrible hair, which he does, or any of the stuff with Melania or whatever, anything he actually did as president. It's going to be how did his words affect the underground grassroots that we're not going to see for 10 or so years. Frankly, after the I'm calling it the Harris administration, because this is something I wanted to ask you later, is how long Biden's going to last. It's the Harris administration.
I think he'll last his whole term.
No way.
Yes, I really do.
Okay, well, let me finish my point about the Don.
Okay.
And then we can go. And yes, I call him the Don because I think it's hilarious.
Pretty good.
But like, I just think we're going to end up seeing that legacy in 10 years. I don't think we're going to be able to process it right now.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And I mean, I thought a lot about what Trump's legacy will be. And it's not going to be that he increased jobs by X amount or that he put X amount of money into Black funded programs. It's that he was like a crazy person. Yeah. Like, and he absolutely flipped everything on its head, and he inspired all of these people that were radical, but you never knew, and that he upturned democracy. And like you said, he inspired these underground people. It's like he brought QAnon to the surface. Like, there was no need for that. Like, there was no need. So yeah, no, I think you're absolutely right.
So you really think Biden's going to last 4 years?
Yes, I really, really do. And I think Biden is already, I mean, I hate to call him this. Biden was not my first choice for president, and I'll make that clear to everyone that I talk to.
I don't think he was anybody who was an actual Democrat's first choice for president.
No, I do not love him. Like, everyone's like, my parents call it, they're like, your man Biden. I'm like, Biden's not my man.
Yeah.
But I think that Biden's a party puppet. I mean, I think to be
100%.
really nice.
Yeah.
I mean, to say it the nicest way. And I think that they will keep him alive as a corpse until the end.
They'll just pump him up full of steroids. Like, come on, Joe, daily routine.
Unless it becomes really bad, which I don't foresee it being. I mean, like, Biden has the world's best medicine next to him. Like, he's not gonna die. Like, if you're like, my grandpa's like freaking 82 and he's kicking it. Like, Biden is gonna live to the end of his presidency, and if he doesn't, I'll be shocked. But if I'm shocked, and if he doesn't make it, and Kamala takes her reign, as all these Trump-loving Republicans fear,
Supreme Leader Harris,
they literally hate her for no reason. It drives me nuts. But if she does become president, I don't think anything will change. I think it'll just be an extension of Joe Biden. So
yeah,
either way, I think these 4 years are going to be pretty goddamn boring. They're going to be pretty goddamn Democratic. Hopefully they make some money moves that they might have not made in other years. But I think for the most part, they're going to try to keep my man Joe alive.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think he's going to die. I think that's cruel for me to try to predict, be like, yeah, he's probably got 2 years left. No, I think what'll happen, and I put the over-under at like 2.5 years, is that he's going to respectfully step away, and then Harris will take over and then be able to start her campaign bid for 2024 against whoever it is. That's my guess. That's just what's going to happen for me. Like, and I mean, like, to your point about the Democratic thing, like, the biggest failure, and they almost didn't get away with it, of the Democrats, is that they focus so intensely on Trump. And frankly, there's a lot of things Trump said and has done that is terrible. And people know I think that, and I think people understand that. However, there's also a lot of stuff that Trump did that was just like, why is this 3 news stories on CNN right now? Why is this being reported on? And a lot of times he was just vilified just for being alive, which, whatever, I get it. I get a lot of people strongly dislike him more than any other president we've possibly had. But the point is then that they were so focused on Trump, they failed to develop basically in Obama. And I know Obama kind of came out of nowhere in 2008 and 2007 during the campaign, but like, they failed to develop that next candidate that was like, yes, this is the person we can throw our weight behind and stuff like that. And I know a lot of people loved Bernie and stuff like that, and Bernie, God bless him. Now he's been kind of basically screwed out of 2 presidential bids by the Democratic Party. And if you don't believe me, like it's just a common fact.
No, that's just a fact. Yeah.
But once again, Bernie's 80 something. So
right,
like
Bernie's an old man.
Yeah, so we're left at the same square. So because and the one, I'm not saying I like him that much, but because I don't know enough about him. But I'm saying like someone of the Mayor Pete build. Like, where was that Democrat that they were going to build up and be like, this is our man, this is going to be the guy who's going to beat Trump, and not only beat Trump, but then come in and make real change for the next 8 years and plan for that. But they didn't do that. They haven't done that for any of the past 4 years. And so all of a sudden they're at the Democrat convention and they have people like Bernie, Bloomberg, Biden's just trying to like just be there just to do his best, you know. And then you have people like Andrew Yang, Tulsi Gabbard getting so much love because there's just nobody there. And it's just like, and they turned to Joe as a safe pick, and it almost didn't work out. I mean, that electoral race was not that far.
I was like having nightmares about it, actually.
Yeah, like it was not that far away, but they got away with it, and that's where I think too, like you said, like it's just going to be a boring 4 years. Biden did his job. He beat Trump, and that's all they needed. And I think now, like you said, like I think puppet is a little far with the word. I haven't heard that word in a long time. But to your point, like
I know, I feel like a geezer. I'm like, oh, he's a party puppet.
But you know, he did his job, and they used the campaign to win the Senate back, and that's what really mattered. I think is the Senate more than anything.
No, I think so too. Yeah, and that was a big complaint, like, during the election. Like, there was no one to rally behind it. But which I disagreed with. Elizabeth Warren was my girl. She was my number one. I loved Elizabeth Warren. I loved her story. I loved her action. I loved the way she spoke. But when it really came down to it, I think the harsh reality is America was not ready for a woman president. And that is another controversial claim that I have. I think a lot of people had a really inherent bias that they didn't know they had about Elizabeth Warren, about her as president. And so I was like, okay, you know what, whatever. I don't think Elizabeth Warren can hold her ground against Trump just because his supporters are just like, they hate her. And Biden was like the safe bet, you know? Like, they were like, okay, like, Elizabeth Warren, like, you're going to step down now and you're going to put your support behind Biden. And she was like, all right, I'll do it. And even though she was the candidate that would have had the rally if she would have, I mean, if the world was different, I think she put that behind Biden, and a lot of the other candidates did too. But yeah, no, it was so narrow. It was so crazy narrow. And I don't know what it would have been like if they would have had anyone else. I really don't. Right,
and well, especially Warren. I mean, how many of those people probably would have lost? And I think too, you think about it. I'm back on Twitter. I was off for a while now. If people might know that because I tweeted so many different things about the Barcelona game yesterday that made me lose my mind. But there's a lot of things on there. One of the reasons I don't like Twitter is because you tweet out something, for instance, that all Trump supporters are racist, and then you get thousands of retweets. It's like, well, it's a very simplistic argument, and while I will agree that Donald Trump himself is racist, like Trump, if you look at the numbers, I can't remember exactly what it was, but I believe it was the day after, I saw that Trump had gained 6 points maybe with African Americans, and actually in Florida he won by so much because he had, like, Florida wasn't even close this year. Or last year, sorry, I should say, was because of the Cubans, but also just in general more Hispanic stuff. So it's like, well, then so to me, that type of simplistic thinking is one reason why we're in a big political quagmire where everyone hates each other and is at each other's throats. But also, like, those type of simplistic arguments, it's like, well, there's so much, and I mean, we've gone through it for 40 minutes or so, and we have to get off soon, unfortunately, because we're both busy people. But like, you can go, like, there's so much nuance with this type of stuff. Even if you are like you are, even if you are a Democrat, to look at it, be like, no, like, you're also, like, you're not correct on it. Like, that doesn't make that's too simplistic. That doesn't make sense. We need to look at these type of factors here on why these people were struggling, and why still, because while Trump's rhetoric was his rhetoric, you know, some people were like, well, no, he's actually done this for me that's helped me the last 4 years. And those stories weren't told to the point to where if the Democratic Party misses those type of things, it's going to be, like I said, it could be a reaction in 2022 would be, right? If I can do math correctly.
Yep.
And I just think it'll be really interesting, because I think Biden right now, right, his biggest two goals have to be stabilization and then just get through COVID. And see where that goes.
Yeah, no, the last thing I'll say before we kind of end things is, like, I completely agree. I think politics has been really reductive. That's a word that I've used a lot over the past I don't know, year or so, is we've just reduced these issues to like one statement or one opinion, and we refuse for some reason to see the context behind them. And that happens on both sides. I mean, we can look at people that oppose Black Lives Matter and we can look at them really angrily because it's like, how are you missing these years and years of history? But we've done it too. I mean, we as in like Democrats. I think that when you see, like Trump is bad, you're like, yeah, fuck that dude. But like, and like all his supporters are bad. You're like, yeah, I hate them. But it's like, these are people that feel like they're not getting something out of the government. They're turning to this guy, you know? And so I think it's unfair to reduce half of America as stupid or as racist because they supported this guy that they turned to. So I think in order to repair the country's relations, we really have to like approach it with empathy. As corny as that is, like you have to look at everyone like they have this unique individual experience and they didn't get what they needed out of American government. They feel like they were left behind in some way, shape, or form, and they're just turning to people to fix it. So yeah, that's how I've looked at policy, and that's how I've approached like the last year of my stuff. And that's, I think, how I'll continue to approach it. Because for a long time, I was on that side, like, yeah, like, I hate you guys. Like, how can you be against, like, these policies? How can you support this guy who doesn't support gay marriage? But it's bigger than that. It's like you said, it's nuanced. It's complex. Yeah. So, yeah.
For sure. And I think it's the right approach. And you can talk to someone without having to agree, people. You can do that. That is a thing that is possible. Like, just because... I was going to go with something about Messi or something like that. Like, it's like sports, right, though? Like, people argue about sports all the time, and politics are bigger than sports, and that's my point, is that you take sports arguments and whatever, and like for instance, how many Ohio State friends or fans am I friends with? Like, we argue, we yell at each other, and then we hug. Like, what we need to bring that, because politics now I relate to, it's a lot of sports team stuff, frankly, if you think about it. Yeah. It's us versus them, my guy versus your guy. It is. And so it's like, okay, well, then let's argue and then hug. Like, you get congratulations. The Democrats won this game. Let's move on. I don't know. And that's
like, let's agree not to hate other people. Like, let's agree not to be racist. Let's agree not to be homophobic. Like, let's agree on those fundamental things. And then, like, let's approach life with, like, the same kind of attitude that you would something else.
Yeah, let's just argue about taxes. Like, it's not that
yeah, okay. Like, let's do normal stuff.
Yeah. But, yeah, no, I completely agree. And I'm glad to hear you're doing that in the role you're doing there with the internship and stuff like that. And getting into this world that you're getting into. So,
yeah, thank you.
Yeah, this was fantastic. We have to do this again, that's for sure. It took so long to get the first one, but we obviously brought up multiple things to talk about, and I'll come back with a 10-point treatise, whatever. I can't say the word. Manifesto on why a Rock Vin Diesel ticket would be fantastic.
Yeah, please do. I'm looking forward to it. I'll keep a lookout in my inbox.
There we go. Okay, take care.
All right, see you soon. Bye.